Pontefract, West Yorkshire, was a quiet English town where life rarely strayed far from routine. Rows of brick council houses lined the streets, built in the years after the Second World War to house working families. Children played outside in the evenings, neighbours greeted each other on their way to work, and little ever disturbed the calm rhythm of daily life. But in 1966, something happened inside one of those ordinary homes that would turn the town into the centre of one of Britain's most terrifying paranormal cases. The house stood at 30 East Drive. From the outside, it looked no different from the others on the street. A small brick home with narrow windows, a modest garden, and nothing about it to suggest that within its walls, something deeply unsettling was about to unfold. The house belonged to the Pritchard family. Joe Pritchard lived there with his wife Jean and their children. Like many families in Pontefract at the time, they lived a simple life. Joe worked hard to support the family, while Jean cared for the home and the children. For months, life at 30 East Drive was completely normal. There were no strange sounds, no strange events, nothing that hinted that their home would soon become famous across Britain. But late in the summer of 1966, the first signs began to appear. At first, they were easy to dismiss. It began with knocking. Soft taps echoed through the walls of the house late in the evening. Sometimes it sounded like someone knocking gently on the brickwork. Other times it seemed to move through the rooms, as if the sound was following the family from one part of the house to another. Joe checked the walls. He checked the pipes. He even stepped outside to see if neighbours were making the noise. But nothing explained the strange knocking that continued night after night. Soon, the disturbances became stranger. Ornaments were discovered lying on the floor when no one had touched them. Pictures tilted on their hooks. Small objects appeared in places where no one remembered putting them. The family tried to ignore it, but whatever was happening inside the house was only just beginning. As the weeks passed, the disturbances grew more violent. Chairs began sliding across the floor on their own. Decorations were knocked from shelves. Heavy objects moved across rooms without anyone touching them. Some items even appeared to fly through the air, as if thrown by an invisible force. The activity frightened the entire family, but there was one detail that investigators would later find especially interesting. Many of the strange events seemed to happen when 15-year-old Diane Pritchard was nearby. Then one night, the haunting turned violent. Diane suddenly screamed from inside the house. Her parents rushed toward the sound. What they saw shocked them. According to the family's account, Diane was being dragged across the floor toward the staircase by something they could not see. Joe Pritchard later said he watched in horror as an unseen force pulled his daughter up the stairs by her neck. There was no one behind her, no one holding her, yet she moved as if someone was pulling her. Then suddenly, the force released her. The house fell silent again, but the family now believed something truly sinister was inside their home. Stories about the haunting quickly spread through Pontefract. Neighbours began gathering outside the house, hoping to witness the strange events for themselves. Soon, journalists arrived to investigate the story. Reporters entered the house and spoke with the family, trying to understand what was happening inside the small brick home on East Drive. Before long, even police officers visited the house to investigate the reports. Several witnesses later claimed they saw strange events themselves. One police officer reportedly watched a heavy chair move across the floor without anyone touching it. the story of the haunting was beginning to spread far beyond Pontefract. As investigators searched for answers, they began looking into the history of the land where the house had been built. What they discovered added a chilling new layer to the mystery. Centuries earlier, the land around Pontefract had once been connected to religious buildings linked to a nearby monastery. Local legends told of a monk who had once lived in the area. According to folklore, the monk had been executed for terrible crimes. Some stories claimed he had been hanged. Others said he had been punished for breaking his sacred vows. Whatever the truth, the story spoke of a monk whose restless spirit had never left the land. Around this time, witnesses began describing something even stranger. Some visitors claimed they had seen a dark, shadowy figure moving through the house. The figure appeared tall and cloaked in darkness. Because of these reports, the entity haunting the house soon gained a name. People began calling it the Black Monk of Pontefract. At the height of the haunting, the disturbances became even more violent. Lights switched on and off without explanation. Scratching sounds echoed through the walls at night. Furniture moved on its own. Objects flew across rooms with frightening force. Visitors who entered the house often left shaken. Some believed the events were a classic poltergeist case linked to emotional tension surrounding Diane. Others believed something far darker was responsible. Then, just as suddenly as it had begun, the activity slowly started to fade. The knocking sounds became less frequent. Objects stopped moving. The violent incidents disappeared. Eventually, the house grew quiet again. But the mystery of what had happened inside the home was never solved.